All right, so it's a very exciting time to be in digital workplace. The employee experience conversation, which I'll be, try to present to you what we think is happening with the building blocks, right? What are the elements? Sam did a good job presenting the basic framework, but I wanted to tell you the story about how we got here, what we've learned, the big insights, because there have been thousands upon thousands of digital workplace efforts over the last 10 years, and we begin to get some good lessons from them. I find this knowledge isn't shared, and that we can all benefit from some of these insights. So I've led digital workplace strategy and implementations for some of the largest organizations in the world in financial services, retail, consumer goods, and many other places. I've seen a lot of change and a lot of the challenges. So I'm trying to walk you through what we've seen and why employee experience seems to be the organizing principle for how we're going to tackle things. So I'm going to try to define employee experience, even though there's no real definition. I think that most of us would accept this. That is our technologies, the full technology environment. Again, it's not just what we provide, right? Well, that's what most efforts do. It's the partner tools that we have to use. It's the devices and the applications that the workers themselves use. I don't know how many times I've seen audits where about a third of the digital workplace tools that are being used and the data that's being created are not under the control of the official group. So we have to account for all of that. The physical environment is still very important, even though everything's becoming very virtual. A lot of employee experience has to do even in the design of the buildings, the design of the workplaces. I've done a lot of work recently in creating the hoteling concept where the building actually shapes itself around the worker. They walk up to a workspace, they swipe their RFID card, and their digital nameplate comes there. Their favorite pictures appear on the LCD screens, the pictures of their family. Their phone number is routed to that office, and they can go in any office in the world and do that. That's leading edge best practice. Most companies aren't doing that. But if you want to create a next generation physical environment, you can do amazing things now and integrate all of these things together into the physical spaces. So the physical environment is a part of this story, of this employee experience. And then you have the cultural environment, because the technology encourages things against the culture, like using social tools in an environment where people hoard knowledge. We've learned that doesn't work very well. So we have to address the cultural environment, make sure that we adjust it or shift it if we need to support the changes and improvements that we make below. All right, so these are the three legs on the table of employee experience that we'd like to support. And there's enablers too. We have to address, as Sam rightly said, we have to address the people issues. They're almost always the hardest part of digital workplace and employee experience. And we see that what works the best is removing the friction from getting work done. These tools should make it easier to do your job, right? They should make you more productive. They should give you leverage, right? They're a lever, a force multiplier. And we have to take every obstacle out of the way of making that happen. And we're seeing that contextual experiences can make that happen. If I'm going to a meeting, why do I have to then go to Google Maps and pull that location up and see where it is? We're seeing more calendaring tools integrating that, but that's the example of that contextual experience. Continuous learning. How do we help our employees who are now working in the fastest changing operating environment we've ever had in business? How do we help them learn? That's the key competitive advantage today. How do we encourage them to experiment and find better ways to do their job, use these new tools instead of doing the same old thing? How do we tolerate, I don't like to use the word risk, so I'm calling it eccentric behavior. But we see that digital leaders encourage that experimentation in their workplace, that they understand the rules of digital systems. They have a high emotional intelligence. They're able to deal with and collaborate with other groups that are very different from them and deal with those issues, right? And they're comfortable with uncertainty, right? So these are all enablers on the people side that are very important, and we have to hire for this. I was on a call, I was presenting to the conference board yesterday. A bunch of top digital transformation leaders wanted to know, all right, what is it going to take to do these things, to create a next generation digital business, a new digital workplace. And it's all about the people. It's either hiring the right people who have these capabilities or upskilling and encouraging it in our existing employees. So this is where in digital workplace, we usually don't have that, hardly any training whatsoever. In fact, we're discouraged from that because it takes people away from their job, right? We might now give them a 2-minute, quick how-to video, right? But we're not supposed to interfere with their job in any other way, right? Well, we need new ways. This is why the continuous learning has to be deeply integrated in the digital workplace. I'm seeing demand for this, and we'll explore a case example as we go through here. I will, however, try and define the digital workplace for you. I believe it is every digital tool that you use to get your job done, wherever it comes from. And we've seen, it took us 30 years to build up what's on this chart, right? And I'm sorry if it's hard to read. But we started with systems of record, right? Storing all of our data in databases and keeping our records about our customers and our orders and our transactions. And we did that, and we actually did a pretty good job. It took us 30 years, but we did a pretty good job. Then we focused on systems of engagement the last 10, 15 years, right? Intranets and collaboration tools and communication tools. And we're in the middle of that right now, right? We have still a lot to learn. That's what we've learned. And of course, we have productivity and information access tools. And combined, we have these layers, many layers we keep building up to access these things, right? First it was desktops, and then it was mobile devices and virtual systems, and now we have app stores, and there's all sorts of things. Virtual reality and augmented reality are going to come when they get it right, which is going to happen in probably 2 or 3 years. So that is the digital employee experience today, and it's accidental. It's largely just accumulated. It's not something we've designed to support work very well, right? We added one tool at a time, each different department and group. And so we've ended up with this accidental digital workplace. What if we created a more designed and intentional workplace that accounted for rapid change? It says this is going to get bigger and it's going to change all the time. So how do we make sure that we're removing that friction, removing those obstacles, right? Making the workers productive. That's what we're talking about with employee experience. And enabling these, supporting the humans as they try and acquire these enablers, enabling skills, if you will. Because there's a lot of reason for doing it. I've collected data for years and years about these new tools, and most would agree that there's about a 25% improvement gain in productivity. All right, if you want to sell one number, to say, if we broadly adopt a better workplace and connect our workers together better, connect our data, connect them with our information better, right, get rid of our silos, we're going to see about a 25% productivity benefit after about 2 years of really doing this seriously, right? That's the number you can use. That's your business case. I've done much more detailed business cases, and there's a lot more data, and like how do these tools cut travel costs, and how do they improve operational efficiency, and so on. There's all that data exists now. So, what are we looking at this year? We see, social was hot, but it's now it's kind of been done. I see almost all of these apps moving out to the cloud. Intranets and employee experience are big, but on the leading edge of this, we're seeing this more integrated digital workplace, right? How do we bring the experience together and create a more organized experience? I was talking with the CIO of Accenture, one of the world's largest companies, a few weeks ago. I wanted to see what he's doing with digital workplace because it's very innovative. And he says, here's what I'm doing. I'm taking the 100 most common things that our organization of 470,000 people do, and I'm making them as easy as possible. They can do it anywhere, right? And it is in as few steps as possible. That's my job as CIO, is to say, let's take the 100 most important things and make them ridiculously easy to do from anywhere. All right, and he calls them moments. I said, my job is to enable the 100 most powerful moments. That's tweetable. I have my interview will be posted with him soon. But it's as part of a digital workplace. It pulls together all the different applications required to do a project, or required to manage an employee, right? These moments that are really important that you spend time doing, most of your time, and I'm designing them, creating lightweight designed experiences on mobile devices and desktops that are very contextual, right? Don't make you go and scramble to go and find the data or load the app or copy and paste it. Just get the job done in the best way possible. That are aimed at these business use cases. right? And designed more holistically. They all work the same way. These 100 moments work the same way. Once they get those done really well, he's in the middle of doing that. They have most of them rolled out. They're going to go after the next 100, right? So that's one way we can look at that. But these are the leading trends. He's just a top example, but I see this in more and more organizations. I just finished last year with a large consumer packaged goods company. We're doing the exact same thing. We're designing these experiences for the most common and most painful activities. It's surprising that a lot of the most common and most important activities are also the most painful one, because they usually cross a lot of different systems, a lot of different data, and a lot of different people, right? And on this leading edge here, these 4 things can help us bring those together, remove the barriers, and make a better digital workplace. So what we've learned, some hard lessons, is the platform doesn't matter that much, but doesn't matter, it's always a religious topic. You know, we're an IBM shop, or we're a Microsoft shop. Those days are receding from us. They're so important, right, who our vendors are. But it's going to change all the time. Even the vendors now are changing so quickly, it's like getting a new vendor, right? If you've been working with companies like Microsoft lately, you know what I'm talking about, right? They killed Skype for Business, and now you've got Microsoft Teams, and next week it'll be something else, right? The platform doesn't matter that much. Don't get over-invested in it. And even, I've been surprised in my experiences, even adoption doesn't matter that much, but that's the easy thing to measure, so everyone measures that, right? It's, are you having an effect on the business? Are you making the experience better for the highest value workers? I had a chief human resources officer explain it to me. He says, about 3 years ago, he said, listen, you need to understand something. 10% of our employees generate 90% of our revenue. If you don't help them, then nothing matters, right? If you're helping everybody else except the people that are the most valuable to the business, then you're going to miss, right? Everyone's important. Don't get me wrong. Everyone is important. But if you're not aiming at where it matters, then you're aiming at the wrong thing. So it's who you have involved and what they do that actually matters. Always remember that. And don't forget, we live in an age where we don't control everything anymore, right? As much as we want. Although I do encounter a few organizations that try, right? We have to let the network do the work. This is what the consumer world of the internet taught us, that incredible things will happen if we're willing to open up and participate. I don't have time to do the case studies I normally do at this point that will shock and awe you about the things that can be done. If you make processes open, you make them participative, right, and make them inclusive. But the bottom line is these new digital workplaces enable these amazing new emergent ways of working. At one of Bjorn's events, I think it was a year or two ago, we learned about these new intranets that are emerging, right? Again, these are designed. They're taking the most common activities that you have and are making them very, very easy. They're making them live in your pocket or your purse, right? This is their MyZone portal that allows an employee to do almost anything that they need to do inside the company. They design the app. We're not seeing companies do this because it's hard. Most organizations don't have the skills to build these intranet solutions, and the tools, the intranet companies aren't supplying very good mobile solutions. They ended up having to build their own, right? And they plugged it into their digital advocacy program, and they put it out at the branches. They have some good data, right? But it's a compelling example. It's one of the, you can hold it up. There's a lot of public material available on it and how they did it. But it's the exception rather than the norm, right? We tend to have these boring, static portals that don't really actually help us do much. You can do your job with the MyZone application. So that's a good example. I encourage you to dig into that more if you want to see a public example. Engagement is a really big problem. Right? Most workers in large companies are not engaged. In fact, it's the biggest untapped resource because the largest bill that most employers get is the payroll, is the cost of the employee. It's the single biggest investment in most organizations. Yet half of it is wasted. Right? Most employees aren't well engaged at all. So that's one of the biggest opportunities with the employee experience. And the question I get asked, and we'll answer in a second, is does technology, though, help with engagement? Can it really do that? We'll see. This is the obligatory. There's lots of benefits of engaged employees, from better quality, better customer satisfaction, less accidents, there's on and on and on. But, you can get data from anywhere on this. It's an imperative. Yet, we've been slow to respond to that because the people problem, the culture problem is often challenging, right? So a lot of employees are actively or passively disengaged. But it's actually an opportunity. It's an enormous opportunity. It's one of the biggest ones we have left. I'll put it like that. But the question is, can technology really improve employee engagement? So I'm sorry if you can't read it. I'll go through this briefly, though. These are the top engagement factors, right? Getting paid is number one. Then comes alignment with coworkers, your workplace environment, interesting work to do, a career path for personal growth, right? Tools to support your work, team-based environment, voice and recognition, and autonomy. You want to make somebody disengaged? Give them bad tools and say, this is how you have to do your job. Right? Your smartest workers will leave. They'll say, I'm a smart guy. This is what Steve Jobs said. We hire the smartest people in the world and ask them to tell us what to do. Right? If you take smart people and you say, do your job in the best way you know how with the best tools, they will do that. But if you don't let them do that, they'll leave. Right? So where I have a red dot is where technology can help. Digital workplace can help with autonomy. I can help with free-form and dynamic self-organization and collaboration, all the things we've been talking about in 10 years with things like social. So it can be done, right? Technology can absolutely help with engagement. I've seen it. There's good case studies out there, but we have to aim for it. If you don't aim for it, you generally won't get it. Although some of these tools just naturally encourage it, it won't happen anywhere to the degree of effectiveness if you aim for it. Right? And this is where the culture will get in the way. There's a lot of people say, hey, you have to follow the business process. You can't just go do whatever you want. So this is some hard discussions you have to have. In general, as we move to a knowledge worker economy, you can do that. You have highly skilled, highly educated people who locally understand what their customers need better, and you can give them that autonomy if you give them guardrails. Right? And say, these are the things you have to do. Keep the customer's data safe and some other things. If you do that, make the customer happy the best way you know how, with the tools that you have at hand. So it's exciting. We continue to have data. It's very interesting. So social is the last big revolution, right? But again, it wasn't all encompassing. But it shows that it's the best thing that we know of to address engagement. In fact, if we look at best-in-class organizations use social technologies in their employee experience far more than other firms, because it is a way of connecting people and data the best way we know how across silos. It leaves things behind. You want to fix your enterprise search problem? Make everyone have to use your enterprise social network to do their jobs. Some companies have done that. We'll explore them in a second. But the issue is it's really easy to roll out tech. It's easy. You can just put it out there and say, use it. Or even you can take away their old stuff and give them the new thing, and they have to use it, right? That's not where the bang for the buck is, right? Focusing on the experience, optimizing it, right? Bringing it to all the pieces you have now, all of those accidental pieces, bringing them together. That's the lowest risk thing to do in terms of getting results. Throwing technology over the wall, which is what most IT departments are really good at, they're really good at it, is not the answer when it comes to these tools that are in people's lives, right, in what they do. One of my favorite examples, and they do everything out loud on SlideShare, and everything is Bosch, right? A great story here in Germany. They're one of the top leaders in digital workplace, top leaders in collaboration. They took their top 25 business practices, institutional practices, right? Budgeting, planning, forecasting, and they said, we're going to redesign it for digital workplace, for in this case, an enterprise social network. We're going to make budgeting all done out in the open. Everyone can see how it's done, and we train managers to do it that way. One of the practices they had was relocating production lines, because they're a manufacturing company. When they did it using these new tools, they were able to reduce a 40-day process to 6 days, because it was open and transparent. The tool they used the latest tools optimized for that experience, right? They're a great example of a large organization that is creating a new generation of digital workplace experience and aiming it at specific business challenges of what they're doing. So we're definitely seeing that. And these new tools are changing the way we manage as well, right? This is one of my famous scary diagrams, and it's designed to look a little chaotic, because all these tools showed up, but we had no idea how to apply them to our business. There's no management theory for this. There's no, how do we think about this and operate our organizations? And then the management theory started to show up. Holacracy, responsive.org, which is still going pretty strong. Social business, hierarchy, podularity. Bosch used pods, by the way. And then we're finally rethinking our business. So I would argue that we have to help our people upskill and think differently, work differently. We have to give them the tools, but we have to rethink our business too, along the way, to make it better. These tools enable new possibilities, things we couldn't do before. So how do we, rethink hiring? That's a big deal. Or rethink onboarding. We'll go over an example here towards the end. So employee experience can be the starting employment for the digital workplace, because something definitely will be. These are examples of some of these things that we can talk about. And I'm still going to make the case. We talked about why social wasn't as successful as it could be in the first generation. We realized that you needed to have a new type of management capability, community management. It was essential. All the top performing examples of enterprise social networks had community management teams. It's like rolling out an IT solution without a help desk. We would never do that, right? Well, you wouldn't roll out digital workplace without the right support either. The people support, not the tech support. So we've been good at providing the tech support for digital workplace and employee experience. We have not provided the people support. That's what this team is here. And it's usually woefully underinvested. By the way, Bosch, their community managers can go all the way up to salary grade 18, which is the same as a C-level employee. They go, this is the future of management, right? So again, we're seeing the leaders and laggards be separated. There's some companies that are farther ahead. So how do you design for end-to-end employee experience? I often use this visual here. Again, I know you can't read it, so I'll walk you through it briefly. There is this worker journey, right? They learn about the company and the brand. Then they're recruited. There's a recruiting experience. There's a hiring experience, an onboarding experience, then the long-term work experience, then the offboarding, then the alumni experience, and so on. There is a total end-to-end life cycle, right? For example, guess what the best source of new hire recommendations is? Your alumni. They know the company really well. They're now out in the world, and they can suggest great candidates to you. So for example, in that financial services firm I talked about last year, we built an alumni community that would gather all the people, and they love that. They love to hang out with their old coworkers and schedule meetups and things like that. And the recruiters can say, hey, do you know of somebody for X? And they'll get a much better result from that process. But it's only because we're actually saying, all right, how can we make sure our employee experience handles every single stage of the employee experience, the employee life cycle? So it's a great cross-check tool that you can use. And we started about 10, 15 years ago with having a few major tools in the workplace. Some of them are integrated, most of them are not. Most of us are up here where we have this huge accidental digital workplace, a few main tools and all kinds of departmental tools. That same financial services organization I talked about, they did an audit. They used 2,900 applications to run their business. That's a little above average for a large company, but not very high, right? 1,500 is more than normal. 1,500, I said. So what we're trying to figure out is how can we create a more designed experience where the data is more integrated, the silos are gone, the friction is gone. We're not going to boil the ocean, but what if we had like a central place to integrate all of those? A place to, where's the center of experience? That's the question I'm starting to get, saying, what's this? What goes here? And connects these experience and the data and the people together, right? So I have some theories, and if you're reading my stuff, we were actually, with some of our clients, experimenting with this. But it looks like it's going to be a collaboration tool, right? Or a social network. Makes the most sense, right? It's the most flow-based, right? It's where when you collaborate with your systems of record, systems of engagement, it's a great natural place to bring it together. Because everyone is in the digital workplace now. I got a call, I think it was a year and a half, 2 years ago. The #1 professional services organization in the world said, we just did an audit and 15% of our projects are being run inside WhatsApp. in direct violation of the company policy. These are very high-functioning knowledge workers, right? Because the tool was easy to use. It didn't have any barriers. They could bring their clients into it. They didn't have to follow any rules, right? And it now created an enormous challenge. So you have to think big. Digital workplace is everything your workers use to get their job done. And if you can't choose and pick, unfortunately. You have to think about the whole picture. I'm starting to get lots more requests for this. How can we integrate learning, just-in-time learning, into the digital workplace? I want to do something new, but I don't know how. How can I make sure they're trained up in the best way possible, very, very quickly? How can they learn from each other? And that's really the last part is what I'm hearing a lot now, saying our workers actually know a lot about how work really gets done. How do we capture that and get it to everybody else on demand, right? So microlearning is a big deal inside the digital workplace. So that's a top new topic. Just in the last year, I'm getting a lot of requests for it. This is my use case. I looked at every project I've been on and every major success story, and I pulled out the major use cases. This is for your study. I'll post this deck on SlideShare afterwards. We're not going to go through this, but this is the small version of the chart, by the way. There's a big one too. But these are the areas where if we optimize, these are high-value areas, right? So recruiting or RFP collaboration or project management, all these major things that we do in our businesses, we've handed people generic tools and said, you figure it out. That doesn't work anymore. So the solution appears to be, I'm calling it a multi-layered employee experience strategy. I'm starting to see this, where a couple of major tools, platforms are selected, and the applications and data are starting to be pulled together into them, right, to make a more integrated experience. Accenture started doing this 2 years ago. They're very happy with the results. The employees say they love it. Right, they're one major proof point. There are others, and as I said, I've worked on some, but I can't name the customers. So putting it all together, right, we want to create a combined employee experience that takes the human experience, that whole life cycle, right, from very beginning to the very end, and make sure we're supporting that, right, with the two major types of systems we've developed over the last 30 years, right, the systems of record first, and the systems of engagement, which have been kept separated, by the way, artificially, and now we can start to bring them together. So I'm going to wrap up with a brief case example that I worked on last year. Pre-hiring is the place where we discovered, the industry, not I haven't discovered, the industry discovered is how you can increase retention. It's the best time, right before they start. That's when they're a ball of clay that can best be molded, right? They're excited about their new job, right? And they want to have a great experience. And so new hires that participate in a digital experience for pre-hire are 80% less likely to leave during their first year, right? It's that kind of data that gets people excited. That's a big number. That's a huge retention. You know how much it costs to recruit an employee? It can cost 10 or 20,000 euros to find that employee, to pay for the headhunter or the recruiter, bring them on board, go through that whole process of training them. It is expensive to hire employees. What if you could retain a whole bunch more of them? So in this experience, this is a generic version of the design. We created a pre-hire experience that was a set of tools, videos about the company. It was a portal. You can meet all of your new hires. Everyone joining at the same time, you could meet and talk with them, right? You could meet and talk with your team, right? You can learn more about the company. You can engage in all these other experiences. Then you're assigned a buddy who would make sure you're okay and say, hey, do you have everything you need to start? All of this, and really check on them, and then welcome them physically on the first day, right? We didn't get the 80%, but we got 60%, right? Increased retention, because they're like, wow, this company is organized and it's great. What a wonderful experience. And again, it's that first impression, right? Really leads to retention. This is an example of a designed employee experience using existing tools. We use nothing but digital workplace tools they already had, right? So Office 365, some of their HR tools, a remote access tool. We used Skype for Business for the video. And then we extended that whole experience throughout the first year. We kept adding more pieces to it. And we tested it with each incoming group. Every 2 weeks, we got a new crop of new hires. We adjusted the experience and then put them through it, right? And we used data to say what worked and what didn't. We surveyed them afterwards, and we adjusted the experience. This was very effective. Also, we tailored it by region because everyone's different. A new hire in Russia is expecting something very different than a new hire in the United States, right? So you know, you do have to take into account the persona that Sam was talking about. All right, so so this is what we think now is best practices and lessons learned, right? So changing behavior and building the right skills is what's key. There is no one platform. We need a help desk for the people. We can't emphasize that enough. Community management. Top performers have 3 times the community managers of non-top performers, right? Get rid of your silos. You know, I re-echo what Sam says. Make search work. And adoption is not the goal. Business impact is. So I hope that was a whirlwind introduction that kind of frames up the rest of the day for you guys. But this is what I'm seeing. The tools are now able to support a lot of things I'm talking about in a way they weren't even a year or 2 ago. You can really do these types of things. We're seeing that the lightweight, it's very easy now to create these lightweight experiences for digital workplace. So I'll be delighted to talk to you about this. I'll be around the rest of the day and see what you guys are doing. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Dion. Inspiring as ever, as always. So are there any questions in the room before I start questioning? So.
Over here.
Oh, yes.
So, is this on? Yeah. So you mentioned Accenture, Bosch, a few other large companies. What advice would you have to take these best practices, these ideas, and scale them to small, medium-sized businesses, especially in the manufacturing area?
Yeah, and this is what's interesting is that small and medium-sized businesses for the first time are at a disadvantage because they're now seeing how important it is to kind of do a little bit of adaptation, lightweight adaptation of these tools to your business, and these small and medium-sized companies don't have large IT departments. But this is why companies like Microsoft, I'm not advocating any particular tool in my talk here. Microsoft, Google, and IBM have created these low-code environments that allow you to anybody to kind of pull together the data from these apps. I actually was in Redmond at the Microsoft headquarters last week, and they were building amazing apps just with point and click that accessed all the data in Office 365. You could build the kind of work experience like a very quick quoting system that pulled from the CRM, pulled from the inventory system, and a regular mere mortal could do it. So you could put a business user in front of them with a 1 day of Power Apps training. And it would really work. It's very impressive. So we're seeing now these new next generation of IT tools are very malleable. They're changeable. They're customizable by anybody, literally, right? So I just published my latest low-code tools list that has all the platforms like that currently allow it. So we now live in an age of customization, the likes we've never seen before, and it's actually now going to enable small and medium-sized businesses to get more into doing these types of things that they didn't have the resources or staff to do before. So, yeah, there's some hope.
But this still brings us to the issue that that I've discussed also with Sam, because even though you may introduce some low-code tools, you still have some legacy systems that you want to integrate with to give a good experience, as you talked about, as always also Sam talked about. So there's a dilemma for the companies to do both, isn't it?
Yes. So I call this the problem of legacy mountain. So it's a little known secret that 80 to 90% of your entire technology budget goes to just keeping the lights on for what you already bought. Right, and only about 10 to 20% is for new projects and new systems and innovation, right? In a time of great change, that's not sufficient. And so what's legacy mountain is dragging down most organizations. It's called technical debt is the real issue. Is that we have years and years of it accumulating. We have to get off these systems, these old systems that are hard to migrate, they're hard to use, don't have the modern capabilities, and cloud is where everything is going. So what we're seeing is advanced organizations have very proactive retirement programs for these legacy systems and are moving them out to these more modern ones. If you're not moving to microservices, if you're not moving to these new unified data platforms, you're going to have a real challenge moving quickly enough and doing any of these things we're talking about here. So now is the time. Most organizations are actively investing in how to reduce their technical debt. free up budget so that they can spend 20, 30, 40% of it on innovation as opposed to just maintenance. That's the real challenge. Is there a good, simple solution for that? No, that's the challenge. Is, how do we make that quantum leap? I have some, privately, if you want to know how to do that, I have some stories recently from CIOs who've actually managed to do it, but they're the exception.
So what is your final key recommendation? What we could do when we return into our offices to drive the digital workplace towards a more employee experience approach?
So the industry throws around the phrase design thinking a lot, right? It's a fancy term, but the idea around it is deeply understand the needs and the pain points of your workers, right? And not just in a generic sense, but really get and understand different types of workers and their personas. If you understand that, then you'll have much more likely to create solutions that's going to address their needs. I can't how many times I've heard workers say, I must always ask when I go to a company, can I walk around and talk to people? And they usually say yes. And the workers are usually relatively unenthusiastic about the tools they've been given. And they go, no one's ever asked me. I have to do X, Y, and Z all the time, and I don't want to do it that way, but I don't know any other way, and no one will help me. We have got to help and address the needs and pain points of our workers and make this a people-centric, an employee-centric process. And if you do that, and it's hard, right? Because you have to keep going back until you get it right. Then you won't create that next generation digital workplace.
Great. Thank you, Dion Hinchcliffe.